with a New York accent, you can make the word river rhyme with forever, as long as everything ends with an A sound. Ba-dum, 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 bum, 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 waha. Michael Piercy on the drums. One of my brothers staying with us last night, he was showing me his injured hand because he plays drums and bongos and congas in 6 different bands in Chicago, Illinois. And now his hand's all beat up. And well, dude, they make these things called drumsticks. Maybe talked about that last night over a couple of cool beverages with my brother visiting with his best girl. Yeah, the Democrats. We just played for you audio out of the Columbia University where Barack Hussein Obama went to college, if I'm not mistaken, before he went on to Harvard, where they also chant from the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever. You got to say it like that, river and forever, because they like to spread illiteracy. They think the less literate a population is, the more likely they are to vote for the left. And here that would be the Democrat Party.
Like, oh, sure, he went to Harvard.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, and I've got to say, I was reading this story out of the Fox News. Whoopi Goldberg rebuked by Iranian dissidents for comparing life in the U.S. to Iran, and a wonderful woman, a doctor, a medical doctor, not like Jill Biden, an actual medical doctor, Sheila Nazarian, Iranian-American woman, Persian-American woman. And she said, I don't think that Whoopi Goldberg really understands what we're talking about here, but Now, they're attacking the United States. They're talking about Iran and Israel defending itself against Iran. By the way, more Iranian missiles raining down on northern Israel today. Well over 100 people injured in the latest round of Iranian missile attacks. And Whoopi Goldberg, who would call herself a liberal, but she's an idiot and a leftist. Those two usually go together very well, hand in glove. Isn't that great? But Whoopi Goldberg, that Israel is the bad guy by default because she's spending all of her breath, her energy, and her blood pressure defending the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I like to say Khamenei. Can you say ha? And that way, pardon me. Sometimes if you do that in a crowd, that can be dangerous because, I'm so sorry. Did I get any on you there? Here, let me give you, here's a Latinx. Maybe you can have a Latinx wipe that off. That's amazing stuff. But Dr. Nazarian, a renowned plastic surgeon, family fled Iran in 1985. She was 6 years old because her father was put on a government kill list. That should be frowned upon. Whoopi Goldberg, she's not familiar with reality. She's not familiar with what's going on in the world. But Dr. Nazarian, who sounds like a good, thoughtful, intelligent person, said while racism is a serious and ongoing challenge in the U.S., generally an overstatement, but the Democrats do tend to be racist, as they always have. Comparing this to life under totalitarian theocracy like Iran is not only inaccurate, it's offensive to those who suffer daily under that regime. In Iran, she points out, the government controls nearly every aspect of life. That's what the left is aspiring to in the United States, the Democrat Party and Barack Obama. It'll take over your health care. That way the government can deny you health care. Then they own you. They own your life and your family because they're commies, basically. And Dr. Nazarian said people can be imprisoned, tortured, raped, or even executed for peaceful protests, for criticizing the regime, or simply expressing their opinions online, Dr. Nazarian said. Amazing stuff. Now, Iran's theocratic regime is deeply unpopular with its public. And it's true, the regime very unpopular in Iran with the people of Iran. About 92 million people, a whole bunch of different ethnic groups, mostly Persian, but not entirely. Widespread anti-government protests frequently break out the Islamic Republic. You may remember the Green Revolution broke out there when Barack Obama was president, and he didn't waste a breath on it. There were women being gunned down in the streets who became a matter of global cause celeb. And Barack Obama went golfing with America haters instead. Kind of ironic to go golfing with America haters, isn't it? It is. Just amazing stuff. So the country was gripped by widespread unrest after Iran's morality police. I know in Saudi Arabia, they're Matawa. I don't know what they are in Iran, but they have their morality police in Saudi Arabia, where I spent a few months one time. The Matawa, they're called there. Their morality police were accused of murdering Masha Amini, a Kurdish woman, for not wearing a hijab in public. And the Democrats shrugged and said, yeah, whatever, we really don't care. But she said it's astonishing that Whoopi Goldberg would even suggest that life for black Americans is somehow equivalent to living under the rule of the Ayatollah in Iran. But that's what they do because they're stupid people. And Democrats at ABC pay them millions of dollars to be ignorant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
And they actually, I guess they might believe this, that they might be such low IQ people. I think their parents were dumb and their grandparents were dumb, not smart people. Man, oh man. But isn't that great? And Iranian-American journalist Lisa Daftari is well known, and she is also out there saying it's astonishing that Whoopi Goldberg would even suggest life for black Americans somehow equivalent to living under the rule of the Ayatollah Khomeini. The very fact that she, as a woman and a woman of color, that's a WOC, has a platform where she can speak freely, express dissenting views, idiotic, ignorant, and completely wrong views, and appear uncovered on national television is proof of the immense freedoms she enjoys. Iranian-American journalist Lisa Daftari. It's not the first time Whoopi Goldberg faced controversy over her comments. In 2022, Whoopi Goldberg on The View said that the Holocaust wasn't about race. The Holocaust wasn't about race. It's not like you weren't killing you because you're Jewish or anything like that. She said the genocide of 6 million Jews was the result of that's just man's inhumanity to man. Yeah. Well, murders in Chicago and Washington, D.C., that's man's inhumanity to man, and it's all Democrats. About 99.8% of it is Democrats, but never mind that. All right, now, speaking of ignorant, let's go to Bill Clinton. Because yesterday was hump day in Bill Clinton's life. Yesterday was mailbag day on the Chris Plant Show, but hump day in the Clinton household. They are amazing people. Bill Clinton. I went on The Daily Show because that's where you get the hard-hitting interviews. And they didn't even have that idiot who's not very funny, Jon Stewart. They had another guy who's not funny at all. What's the idiot's name? Jordan Klepper. Jasmine, you ever hear of Jordan Klepper? You've heard of Jordan Klepper? All right. See, Jasmine's heard of Jordan Klepper. That's pretty good. I think she gets out more than I do. Jordan Klepper. That's pretty good. But Bill Clinton was on The Daily Show with a guy named, it's The Daily Show without Jon Stewart, as it's called, some guy named Jordan Klepper. And they're Israel, Iran. These people really, they're from the river to the sea. Palestine will soon be free.
They're not talking about negotiating peace in the Middle East because the
Go ahead.
The Israelis have no intention of, under Prime Minister Netanyahu, of giving the Palestinians a state. And now they're too divided and crushed to organize themselves to achieve it. So, and President Trump apparently agrees with that they shouldn't have a state. But you don't want a disaster either.
Thanks, genius boy, brilliant boy. I was actually at the White House the day that Bill Clinton had his Middle East peace deal. How'd that work out, Bill? That was good stuff. I spent part of the afternoon with Jimmy Carter that day at the White House in my previous iteration. And how did that peace deal, your Middle East peace deal, work? You get peace because the Arabs really wanted peace, and they've been peaceful ever since, right? We have the Islamic peace, right? The Pax Islamica. I don't think that happened. But that didn't come up because Jordan Klepper has no idea what happened before last week. And that's why they put him there, because the Democrat Party breathes and lives ignorance. They love ignorant, like Whoopster Goldberg. Aren't they amazing? So, wait a minute. What is the? It's Israel that's not negotiating peace because they won't give Palestine a state. The Gaza was a state. Well, it still is. It's been bombed a little bit because the savages raped and murdered everybody and attacked like the savage troglodytes that they are. But never mind that. He's blaming Israel and Netanyahu. You know, Barack Obama sent teams of people over to Israel to make sure that Netanyahu would not be reelected. They tried to unelect Benjamin Netanyahu because they're fascists, tampering in foreign elections and upsetting the apple cart everywhere you look. They're the worst of America, the left in the United States. Just amazing. But, it's Netanyahu who won't negotiate peace, and a state, and Trump, too. Then he threw in Trump. This is the party that started the first American Civil War. How many people and politicians are they going to have to shoot this time around before they fire on Fort Sumter again? The so-called Palestinians, which is not an actual ethnic group, just part of the tribes of the Arabs in the region, they were given an area called the Gaza, right on the Mediterranean Sea with 25 miles plus of beach. And the space, the area that the Gaza occupies, more than twice the size of Washington, D.C. And instead of turning it into a garden paradise, they turned it into a murder pit. And they attacked the neighbors next door, who were far superior to them in every imaginable way, and certainly militarily and economically. And they've been providing them with clean, drinkable water, potable water, and with electricity and with hospital supplies. And then they decided to say they bite the hand that feeds them would be generous understatement. Bill Clinton continuing to attack the Jews.
Mr. Netanyahu has long wanted to fight Iran because
nuclear weapons?
That way he can stay in office.
Oh, that's it.
He's been there most of the last 20 years.
They all want to be in office.
But I think we should be trying to diffuse it.
How's that?
And I hope President Trump will do that. I hope anybody there will do that.
It was Barack Hussein Obama that made sure they had nuclear weapons-grade materials and ballistic missiles. Anything about that, Porky Bill over here? Bill Clinton.
We got to convince our friends in the Middle East that we'll stand with them and try to protect them. But choosing undeclared wars in which the primary victims are civilians who are not politically involved one way or the other, just want to live decent lives.
You mean the Israelis?
Is not a very good solution.
Well, that's what started the war when and by the way, in their free state of Gaza, they elected their own political leadership, and they elected a terrorist organization headed by terrorists who led the attack against innocent civilians who were murdered and kidnapped and held hostage and raped and murdered again. And you might know who the bad guys are, and then again, you might not.
Do I think that we have to try to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon? I do. I tried at that, and we had some success.
No, you didn't.
But we don't have to have all this outright, constant killing of civilians who can't defend themselves.
Only civilians.
They just want a chance to live.
Where are the Iranians?
Well said.
Well said. The idiot says, that's all he says. Woo! I'm going to clap because my brain is a squirrel brain, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. So wait, Israel is killing all the civilians? Is that they vilified Israel? They are, I think, Nazi Germany, and he's Adolf Hitler. Is that fair to say? That's what everybody says now. Don't worry about it. You know, a recent bombshell report revealed that the abortion pill is literally 10 times as dangerous as the FDA told us it was. Now, they say 11% of women taking the pill experience serious adverse effects, medical effects. Horrifyingly, it's also reported abortion pill is responsible for more than 60% of abortions in the United States. And with an average of more than 1 million babies being aborted every year just in the U.S., that's 66,000 women that could be harmed medically, permanently by the abortion pill just this year alone. The Democrats applaud that. This is what they call health care, Now, let me tell you what real health care looks like, because Preborn's network of clinics across the country helped to actually save 67,000 unborn babies last year. Once a woman sees her baby inside of her, sees the heartbeat, hears the heartbeat, feels the heartbeat, sees the baby waving, the chance of the baby living a long and happy life growing up to be an adult actually doubles. One ultrasound is only $28 American, and $140 helps to rescue 5 unborn babies. Any gift will help, of course, and all your gifts are tax deductible. To donate, all you have to do is dial pound 250, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. As dialing pound 250, the keyword is baby, or go to Al Gore's amazing internet to preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/plant. Yes, sir. Yeah, Bill Clinton, these Democrats, and they're still blaming the Jews. Hey, what about your peace deal? See, Bill Clinton got a peace deal that wasn't a peace deal. Barack Obama got a nuclear deal that wasn't a nuclear deal. Well, it was a good deal for Iran because they want an arsenal of nuclear weapons to use on the infidels. So Barack Obama made that happen.
Unlike when I became president, a lot of things are coming apart around the world now.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now let's go right to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Doug, calling from Ottawa, Canada. Doug, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
You betcha.
It's actually calling from America's Toque.
America's Toque? America's hat? America's largest national park? Canada?
America's top hat. Chris, if I recall correctly, Bill Clinton gave North Korea the means to develop their nuclear weapon. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yeah, Democrats spread the joy wherever they go, don't they?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, what's with those guys?
I keep asking that question, Doug. I've been scratching my head on that one for a long time now. What is with those guys? I think they're kind of quasi-commies. That might explain it all. Maybe the Democrats should relocate to Iran. Most of your elected Democrats should. Think they'd be happier in Iran. Of course, as that religious faith thing, they'd have a problem with that. But the authoritarianism, they'd settle right into that very comfortably, I think. Yeah, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton lecturing the world. President Trump should diffuse the Israel-Iran crisis, right? And end the outright constant killing of civilians. You mean of Israelis by Hamas that you guys are chanting for? Is that what you're talking about? Pretty amazing stuff. Now, a hospital in Israel has been struck by Iran, a missile strike, and now the headlines today are President Trump is weighing dropping bunker busters on the Fordo nuclear facility built 300 feet underground. And it was built that way because they knew that the civilized world would want to drop bombs on it, so they couldn't put it at ground level, couldn't put it on the surface, had to dig it deep into the ground to make it really hard for Israel and the United States to bomb. And so at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, our guys came up with some 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. Now, airplanes are airplanes. Fighter jets may drop bombs from under their wings, and it might be a 250-pound bomb. You might have a 500-pound bomb. A 1,000-pound bomb is a big bomb. You might have a 2,000-pound bomb. That's a really big bomb. But a 30,000-pound bomb, which is about as long as a Buick, and a B-2 bomber can carry two of them, and therefore drop two of them. We're talking about maybe 12 of these bunker buster bombs being needed to take out the underground nuclear facility 300 feet under rock at Fordo, which has a couple of different spellings, but generally pronounced Fordo. So we'd be talking about, if it's one fell swoop, we'd be talking about 6 B-2 bombers out of Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, flying nonstop to Iran to drop what would be 12 bunker buster bombs at 30,000 pounds each. That's a lot of high explosive. But Iran is a real threat to the world and to humanity and to world peace because of the Ayatollahs and the Islamic Revolution. The Democrats, they just want to fight here like they did in 1861. And they're not on our side. They're not on the side of our allies like Israel. I unearthed a couple of photos going back and forth in the last, yesterday, really. And I say, I went many years ago now. I think it was 1997. In my previous life, I went to Whiteman Air Force Base, where they keep the B-2 bombers, and hung out with the B-2 guys for a day. Got into the cockpit of one of the B-2 bombers. The airplane, the B-2 Spirit. It's called the B-2 Spirit. And we have about 20 or 21 of the B-2 bombers, the stealth bombers. And I got into, and each one of them is named after a state. I went into the cockpit of the Spirit of Texas. That's the bomber, the B-2 bomber that I hung out with that day, and went into the cockpit of that airplane, the Spirit of Texas, B-2 bomber at Whiteman, in the hangar, where the sign says lethal force authorized, do not enter. I got authority ahead of time. And then we went up aboard U.S. Air Force in-flight refueling tanker, and B-2 bombers came up. I was down in the bay underneath the in-flight refueling tanker, and B-2 bombers came up and refueled. And I got a few photographs, and I couldn't find them yesterday, but one of my great friends shared a couple of the photos with me this morning, actually, of me in the bay underneath the refueling tanker as B-2 bombers came up to refuel. That was what we used to call a cool day at work. That was a good day at work, a lot of fun. And I think we'll probably post those photos today, the B-2 bomber. But we're talking about the U.S. striking this nuclear facility, in particular at Fordo, built deep underground, where they're enriching uranium and have centrifuges. They can use those enriched nuclear materials to build nuclear weapons. Barack Obama allowed them to continue to advance their ballistic missile program, endangering civilization itself, right? Because Democrats. Now, President Trump, this came up yesterday, as you might expect, with President Trump, because the headlines are, President Trump has finalized a plan, a military plan, working with Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And he's gotten his advice, and that came up at a hearing yesterday where Pete Hegseth was being asked by Democrats to give away all of our most sensitive national security secrets so they could sabotage the United States, which is what Democrats have been doing all of my adult life, and I think beyond my adult lifetime too. And Pete Hegseth said, well, if I had given the president advice, I don't think we have that soundbite, do we? If I had given the president advice on what to do in Iran, I wouldn't share it with you here. And the Democrats kept posing, no, give away our most sensitive state secrets, because we're here to sabotage the United States. We're the Democrat Party. That's who we are. But the headlines are that President Trump has okayed a final plan for attacking nuclear facilities in Iran, but that he has not given the green light, although he might give the green light, and I think he's on the horn with Benjamin Netanyahu, who Bill Clinton hates because he's a fascist, he's Hitler, a Democrat, and Barack Obama, whose middle name is Hussein, after all. Pretty amazing stuff. But President Trump was asked about this yesterday on Iran. And President Trump is like, hey, I've been talking to them, and I told them they had 60 days to make a deal, and 61 days, here we are. Then Israel started hitting targets after 61 days. He's like, let's sit down and make a deal. Come on, I'm the art of the deal guy. Let's talk. Let's make a deal. And Barack Obama betrayed us like the treasonous lout that he is, and gave everything that Iran wanted to Iran, plus billions and billions of dollars and pallets of cash, because they did everything but sending the liquor and the girls to Iran. Isn't that amazing? Donald Trump yesterday on Iran.
They should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that.
I may do that. Invite maybe, and the Iranians are like, oh, let's invite me to the White House. We have to mag them for a suicide vest before you invite them in, because they do that sort of thing, like Democrats self-immolating at the Supreme Court. Yeah, yesterday when the Supreme Court ruled against Democrats and their fixation with child genital mutilation, and the Supreme Court naturally in a 6-3 ruling, because the three radical Democrats ruled in favor of child genital mutilation without the approval of the parents, because they're a demented bunch of people. They genuinely are. I was kind of surprised that no Democrats self-immolated at the Supreme Court yesterday after that, which they do have something of a history of doing. And then President Trump talking to Caitlin Collins of CNN. And they're just trying to, will you give away all the state secrets and tell us when and what kind of planes you'll use and what time of day it will be and what direction they'll come in from? Because we're CNN and we want to tell Iran so Americans can be shot down.
Does that mean you haven't made a decision yet on what to do?
I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war. Things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other. War is very bad. There was no reason for this to be a war.
War is very bad. There was no reason for this to be a war. Other than the belligerent parties involved in all of this, it's true. And President Trump has given him kind of a Japanese ultimatum. Yesterday, I think at one point he said he's got the ultimate ultimatum, which might be somewhat redundant, but he had given them the ultimatum, and they didn't accept, and now he's like, listen, last chance, this is it, the ultimate ultimatum. President Trump.
Two very simple words, a very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it, I give up, no more. Then we go blow up all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen.
I'm going to say I think that my sense is, and I don't have any inside information, but my sense is that President Trump is close to making the decision to deploy B-2 bombers to drop 30,000-pound bunker busters on the Fordo nuclear facility buried deep underground, because he doesn't want to leave this as unfinished business. And Netanyahu said we can take out everything except this in particular, Fordo facility, and maybe Natanz as well, but primarily Fordo, that Barack Obama allowed to proceed apace, right? Amazing stuff. And I think that President Trump, like it or not, and I'm not a fan of it, And at the same time, allowing Iran to build 9 to 14 nuclear warheads when they have ballistic missiles that continue to increase in range, thanks to Barack Obama and John Kerry, who did that to us, then I got to say, I'm not sure there are any good options. And maybe the least bad option is to take out that nuclear facility. Now, I don't like the sound of a third aircraft carrier battle group headed that way. We've got one battle group there right now, second battle carrier group en route from the region, and now a third aircraft carrier battle group en route from the East Coast of the United States. That sounds like war. That's very un-Donald Trump, and people voted for him because he talked about not getting involved in these foreign wars and the forever wars. And we don't want to go down that road. And at the same time, we don't want to sit back and pretend in an imaginary world like Whoopi Goldberg that you don't have to worry about Iran building nuclear weapons. And there's back and forth between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz, too. Now, Israel has their military has a spokesman whose name is Nadav Shoshani, talking about fighting Iran.
This is an ongoing operation, and our goals are very clear, to remove these existential threats from the civilian of Israel. And we're saying this is a preview. This morning, we saw a preview of what could happen if we let Iran keep going this way. And their goal was to have thousands and thousands of these ballistic missiles on Israeli civilians, and on top of that, nuclear weapons.
Now, the Democrats are such a corrupt bunch of dimwits that they want to blame everybody except the people that are responsible, which is perfectly typical of the left. They have the brains of children, and they've been indoctrinated to become glassy-eyed zombies of death. That's who they are. And I was just playing Barack Obama audio for you. Let's go to soundbite number 18, because this woman, Democrat hardcore leftist, used to be a Bernie Sanders person. Now she's an MS-13 DNC person. What's the difference? And she's like, oh, gosh, Barack Obama came out and spoke, and he's a religious icon to them. They worship him like they're death cultists. And Simone Sanders on MS-13.
It is not on Barack Obama to clean up the mess that America has made. Chuck Schumer needs to be a little more clear, a little more forceful.
Agreed.
Hakeem Jeffries needs to be a little more clear and a little more forceful.
Agreed.
Barack Obama could have said nothing because he did his duty for 8 years and then got out there on the campaign trail after that and then got out on the campaign trail after that again. His family has been put in the crosshairs.
His family has been put in the crosshairs. No evidence to support that scurrilous, false, hateful claim. Isn't that amazing? And I'm sorry, Barack Obama to clean up the mess. Barack Obama made this mess. Barack Obama set the table and then knocked it over. Barack Obama's JCPOS green-lighted the centrifuges, the uranium enrichment, the ballistic missile progress, and then, like children with children brains, Barack Obama is not being called on to clean anything up, even though he left this thing in the punch bowl. You people. What's the matter with you people? Honestly. Yeah. Now, I've got a fun story for you from the federal government, having to do with guidelines for consuming alcohol, for recreational purposes. I have an update for you regarding government guidance when it comes to consuming alcohol. Very, very important news. All right, the headline is very Irish. U.S. to drop guidance to limit alcohol to 1 or 2 drinks per day. Now, the government has new guidance. Drink as much as you want. They must have Irish guys in the government now. The U.S. government is expected to eliminate from its dietary guidelines the long-standing recommendation that adults limit alcohol consumption to 1 or 2 drinks per day, according to 3 sources familiar with the matter. That's good. That's the Wall Street Journal here. in what could be a major win for an industry threatened by heightened scrutiny of alcohol health effects. So the updated dietary guidelines for Americans, which would be released as early as this month, are expected to include a brief statement encouraging Americans to drink in moderation or limit alcohol intake due to associated health risks. Seems fair enough, but I'm guessing, there's an O'Brien or an O'Shaughnessy or somebody behind this. I can see it coming from a mile off. The Democrats, because there's a Democrat that they love illegal aliens, and President Trump's U.S. attorney in upstate New York was chased down the street by a knife-wielding lunatic who was trying to murder him. And when the lunatic was grabbed, it turned out that he is a Democrat. Well, not a Democrat, but an illegal alien led into the country by Democrats, an armed man with a knife. Joe Biden says an unarmed man has a knife. Isn't that true? Confronted and chased U.S. Attorney John Sarcone on Tuesday night outside a downtown hotel in Albany, New York. Chased him, and the law enforcement got him, and it turns out, you'll be shocked to learn, an illegal alien that the Democrats waved into the country.
When deputies arrested him, he was brandishing a knife in a backpack. A translator was used as he didn't speak English.
Subsequently, we found out that he's here illegally, had been here from Georgia for about the last 3-4 years, 5 years maybe at most, that he had been thrown out of the country once before and came.
Aren't they amazing? They love illegal aliens and knives and guns. I am telling you, they are really something, the Democrats. Thank you for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow for a lot more.